My name is Pate. I am from Bozeman, Montana, and I'm a military medical researcher and coach for active duty service members, veterans, and first responders. And I'm an outdoor enthusiast and lover of the mountains. Yeah, last year was a pretty interesting year for me. I had a lot going on internally with just changes that I was going through on a personal level, and I had a lot of external changes and things going on in a professional level in my career as well. And they often, I think, sync up when you have a lot of shifting going on internally. Sometimes the external world follows suit. And as I was working through a lot of that change internally, I recognized that I needed some support in sort of the career or professional arena, and I was looking for somebody to help me navigate that. But everybody that I consider a mentor in my life has some sort of stake in an outcome associated with the work that I do, so they may be more inclined for me to choose to stay in a position or move towards a different position based off of their own inherent bias, which is totally normal. But I was really looking for somebody to provide some guidance who didn't really have a stake in what I was doing and what the outcome was. It really just wanted to help guide me in the direction that was the best path for me. And in order for me to do that, I really needed to get out into for me personally, get out into nature and separate from the routine and the grind and the stressors of daily life that make it really hard to see clearly. So that was sort of the beginning of my path in working with Mike and choosing to start coaching with him and then ultimately go out into Alaska with him.
Take this and we're good to go.
All right.
My desires to work with Mike and go out into the bush were both personal and professional. And as I mentioned before, I was really going through a lot internally, and I find a lot of peace in nature and getting out into the wilderness. It's very soothing to me. And so I think on one level, I was really looking forward to getting out there and going on an adventure with Mike. And on a professional level, I was really looking for guidance with what the next moves were going to be for me career-wise. And I think probably equal parts both personal and professional were the motivations for me working with Mike Green. Yeah, so I did think about this quite a bit before going out there, and I didn't really have expectations about the experience. I knew what we were going to be doing roughly, and there was certainly a container provided for the experience that was very clear. But beyond that, I kind of kept myself open to whatever was going to happen and however it would be, and I just trusted Mike with what we were going to be doing. As we approached the journey, I think I really felt a lot of different emotions, but the most predominating one would be excitement. I was really excited to get out there and to experience some new things and to work with Mike in that kind of unique setting. So yeah, definitely excitement. Mike's style of leadership and coaching during the experience was really unique. It's something I haven't experienced before. I've worked with coaches in the past, and it's very difficult, I think, to be able to relate to somebody and maintain the structure of coaching and be relatable and feel like you're close and friends with somebody. And Mike really was able to do that. He continuously provides his incredible insight along the way, and you never lose touch with that. Every day that we were out there, every experience that we had, there was a thread of coaching in all of what he did. And at the same time, he felt like, an incredible friend that you could bullshit with around the fire at the end of the day and joke with and laugh with on the trails and everything that we were doing. But he always found a way to weave the coaching in, and it never felt forced or I guess, contrived in any way. It was so natural, and he does it really well. He's able to combine those really well.
What we're doing now is just looking for those air cleaners.
There were a lot of moments that stuck out on this journey with Mike, and there are two in particular. Well, actually there are three. And so, yeah, I guess I can't really pick one. There are a couple that are funny and then one that was really profound. But the first one was the very first day when we got out there and we saw fresh grizzly and wolf tracks. And I was fairly certain that I was gonna die in Alaska. And that would be the end of my trip. And I wouldn't have to worry about career changes after that because there would be no life to live. But that actually really spoke to the fear that I had, which I didn't realize how strong it was until I got out there and saw that, and it was very clear that we are out there, we are alone, except for other animals, and you have to face those fears in order to keep moving forward. There was no going back, so we had to just keep moving forward, and that allowed me to work through the fears of being part of nature, being out there in the wild, and no longer being at the top of the food chain. So that stuck out to me. The other really funny one is that Mike did an interpretive dance for the caribou when we encountered some, and it allowed the caribou they became really curious and they came closer. So we got within 30 yards of these caribou, and it was all because of Mike's interpretive dance, which I'm sure at some point he will record for all of the world to see, hopefully. But I would say that probably the most profound experience that I had out there was when we were bushwhacking through junipers, sage, and you've got a big pack on and you've got zippers and things on your clothes, and they're just constantly pulling at you, and it's pulling at your pack, it's pulling at your clothing. It's really hard to push through it, and then you're encountering mud and you're getting stuck, and you've got a heavy pack on, and you're moving, but you're moving super slowly, and you see how far you have to go, and you have to continue to bushwhack and make your way through this really challenging terrain. And it's a bit of a sufferfest. And I was really starting to get, on one day in particular, I remember getting really frustrated and exhausted from not sleeping and just being in a new environment and all of those things that kind of compound your stress response in a new place. But was getting really frustrated, and I was noticing in myself the change in my mood. And I was like, okay, well, the only way through this is through it. There is no help. There is no shortcut. We just have to keep moving. And it's going to suck either way. It's going to be a sufferfest either way, but you can change your attitude. You can either focus on the negatives and how frustrating or slow the process is, or you can laugh at the hilarity of how much everybody's struggling and make jokes and be lighthearted about it. And the perspective that you choose to take in those moments, it changes everything. And that was a time when we were out there where I realized that flipping that switch for me would make or break an experience. And so I could tell that Mike was conscious of how I was feeling. I think he was waiting to see how I would react and which way is she going to go? Is she going to, just make this even harder and be frustrated, or is she going to choose, a maybe more lighthearted path? And I think he was waiting for me to make that decision. And when I did, and I was like, okay, let's just laugh about this and have a good time with it, he then reflected back on how that can apply in life in general and work situations. There's no perfect job. There's no perfect path. There's going to be times of struggle and suffering, and how you react is everything. Can make or break your experience. And so that was a really cool moment for me where I was like, this is something I can take from this experience and apply back in my life. Yeah, the experience with Mike in the bush has impacted my life in some pretty profound ways. I think it really made me realize how important being in nature is, and how important spending time in the wilderness and reconnecting with the earth and pushing your body in ways that make you uncomfortable. All of that is so important to me, and it's actually provided some pretty deep insight into what I want to do with my coaching business. And one, on a personal level, it's just important for me to get out there and to continue to create these experiences where I can reconnect and ground myself and feel like I'm back in nature and part of nature. But it also gave me insight into how I want to continue to coach in the military, veteran, and first responder space. And I'm applying that in my coaching company and the business that I have in a way that allows me to do what I do with these communities and with these individuals and groups, and do it in a way that really extracts every bit of the human experience that we can when out of the situation when we're in nature, because it allows people to be grounded, it allows people to open up more, and it does push you when you're in uncomfortable situations. I think you definitely are able to reconnect with certain parts of yourself that maybe you're dormant when you're kind of in the routine of life. And just the way that it impacted me, and I mean, spending those days out there in the bush with Mike, just like the strongest antidepressant on the planet, I think I was on a high from that for weeks to come, which is far longer than anything I've ever tried before. And that was something that, you kind of know on a deep level, but until you remind yourself of it, it's like, oh gosh, where has this been all my life? And I spent a lot of time in the woods, but not to that degree and in that kind of way. And it was a really profound experience that made me feel so much better and more in touch with my own humanity. That again, as I move through my coaching and grow my own business, really being able to use that as a tool to help other people I'm grateful for that experience and that realization.